Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital.
Now before I begin, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. No matter which Chicago boat tour you take, you will be sure to pass the tuning fork. Also called the champagne flute, or more ominously, the guillotine, the building on 150 North Riverside is not the oldest, nor the most historic building on the Chicago riverfront. In fact, quite the opposite. Nor is it particularly flamboyant in its design, defined more by pragmatism than artistic whim. Rather, the building on 150 North Riverside is a study in the possible. For almost a century, 150 North Riverside was considered unbuildable, squeezed by the Chicago River to the east and 7 underground Amtrak lines to the west. More than 75% of the site was eaten up by easements and railways. With all the constraints factored in, the ground floor buildable footprint was just 39 feet wide in one direction. 39 feet. Think about that. 39 feet is probably about the width of your living room. Yet, in 2017, the developer and architect managed to fit a 51-story skyscraper on this lot. How did they solve the dilemma of the impossible site? I'll let you know at the end of this video. But one thing is for sure. The developer of 150 North Riverside surely undertook a feasibility study before purchasing the site. And if you are looking at land as either an investment or to develop, you should do so as well. So in today's video, we're going to cover the top things you need to know about feasibility studies. Number 1, a real estate feasibility study is the viability analysis you conduct before undertaking development. It not only uncovers any potential problems, but it also deconstructs the complex tasks involved in development so that they can be executed in a manageable and expedient way. Number 2, a feasibility study serves as a project guide. It does so in many ways. First of all, it helps you determine the project's approximate profit so that you know whether it even makes sense to move forward. It also tests whether a project is viable and if your vision is technically feasible. And of critical importance, a feasibility study helps you obtain the confidence of investors and bankers. In fact, a feasibility study, or at least many of its attendant components, will be required by a bank or other lender in order to obtain financing on most development projects. Number 3, a feasibility study's goal is to analyze the feasibility of several major aspects of a development project, including whether it is technically feasible, so that is to say whether the proposed building is allowable under all local laws, including zoning, as well as whether the site conditions will permit the construction of the building. Another key component is whether the project is economically feasible. The feasibility study also looks at legal feasibility, which is to say whether the proposed project, again, is going to comply with all local and state laws and regulations. Another important aspect is organizational feasibility. Does your organization have the cash reserves required? Does it have staff with the necessary expertise? And finally, the feasibility study will look at scheduling. How long is each phase of the project expected to take? When will you have to make cash outlays? And when do you expect to make that cash back? Number 4, because the feasibility study looks at so many different components of a project, it has many different steps. But at a high level, you would start a feasibility study by getting a title report, so you can ensure that if you purchase a property, you will have clear title. This will also check for potential site constraints, such as easements or encroachments. Once you know title is clear, you can perform a site inspection and commission a survey. With the survey in hand, an architect will then be able to prepare a site plan for the proposed project. The next step will then be to perform all required tests and studies. Depending on the project location and site, these tests will generally include a geotechnical study, a Phase 1 environmental assessment, and potentially a perk test, depending on whether public sewer is available. When the architect has completed a preliminary design, they can give you an initial cost estimate, and with this, you can prepare a project pro forma. A schedule is then prepared to help you lay out a roadmap for how to get to completion and sale of the project. And finally, With all of this information, you will analyze your organization's capacity to undertake the project. Number 5, the project manager for the project usually completes or at least oversees the organization's feasibility study, although various consultants will handle the different components. In some cases, though, a small or first-time developer will hire an outside real estate consultant to serve as the project manager for the feasibility study. Finally, number 6, make sure that your purchase agreement with your seller gives you 60 to 90 days for you to complete your feasibility study. You don't want to end up rushing your analysis because you're afraid you will lose the site. But let's return to our impossible site. The architects and engineers of 150 North Riverside had just 6,000 square feet of available space on the ground floor, yet they had to fit in a 28,000 square foot office floor plan. What did they do? The engineers designed a massive central concrete spine that filled up the ground floor buildable area and housed the building's elevators. The core is supported by massive caissons that are drilled 11 stories below grade and sink 5 feet into bedrock. The building rises 8 stories above ground before dramatically expanding in size to a footprint of 28,000 square feet. The upper stories are supported by giant diagonal steel beams that were lifted into place by a special crane floated down the Chicago River on no less than 81 strapped-together barges. And so, in this way, the architects and engineers were able to pull off the impossible. They built a skyscraper on Chicago's most difficult site. If they can do it here, you can do it on your land. So don't let the impossible stop you. Just complete a feasibility study first. And if you have any stories about feasibility studies or development, let us know in the comments.
Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.